Okay, so welcome everybody to the Co-op Peer Advisory Group meeting for June. I am excited to introduce Steve Caton, who's going to give us his spotlight talk about sales effective strategies. But the agenda for our meetings is as follows. We're going to start off with introductions, which are very quick. We're going to go into Steve's presentation, then go into a breakout and discuss some of the central concepts that Steve shared with us in terms of how we implement them, literally starting today. Then we'll do the member spotlight talk, which will be Mitch Douglas presenting today. And then we're going to wrap up. And this is why we're going past an hour. This is not working. We're going to go past an hour for the first time because we never, ever, ever have time to discuss sharing our wins, upcoming events, conferences, groups you think we should join, things you're doing, such as webinars. So we're going to extend the meeting starting today to 12:30 Eastern time. If you have a prior standing meeting, no worries. Just leave whenever you need to. So having said that, we're going to go around the table, so to speak. The folks who are existing members, literally anything we should know about you that you haven't already shared, and who are you going to invite to July? That's it. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Easy peasy. And then for folks who are kind enough to grace us with your presence as guests, again, 30 seconds. You're going to share who you are, what you do, and who you do it for. So whether you're a guest or a member, it should only be 30 seconds. Steve, I'm going to go around the table. You're going to hear everybody's intros, and then I'll finish it off, and then we'll turn the table over to you if that'll work.
Works for me.
It works for you? Does it work for everybody else?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I really need to hear it from Jason.
I'm sitting there going, what are we supposed to talk about? Because I'm not sure what people even know about me in terms of what they don't know about me. So is that like a personal interest, or
It can be business or personal, whatever floats your boat. This is really about relationship cultivation. The monthly meetings are a chance to check in from all of the one-on-one relationship building that's going on outside of the group. So if you want to share a personal, mazel tov. If you want to share a business, that'll also work. Whether it's a book you've written, an upcoming webinar, a new service you're offering, anything that we don't know about you yet. So here we go. I'm going to just basically go around the table and pick names for the order of how this will play. Dana, you kick things off, then Lori, then Jason, then Carolyn, and I'm just reading left to right across the rows. Then Mitch, but Mitch, you're going to be speaking, so kind of factor that into your elevator pitch. Eric, Seth, Philip, Bill. Everybody feel comfortable? Dana, kick things off.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. As you pointed out, I'm a guest. You were kind enough to invite me, and I was excited.
I was.
Yes. Thanks for re-emphasizing that. Yeah, I was excited because I do know Steve, and he does always have good things to say, and I was excited to hear his presentation this morning.
Get to your pitch.
I am primarily focused on sales acceleration, sales and revenue engine generation. I've been doing that now, gosh, for about 15 years. Prior to that, I started a couple of software companies, and I just enjoy working with companies to help them get back to some of the basic things that a lot of folks are missing these days, where they get too hung up on technology and forget about relationships and what that means in the sales world, and how to go about building those relationships, focusing on the customer, and getting things done that help our customers, therefore helping us. So
Got it.
appreciate the time to be here. Thank you.
Appreciate you joining us, Dana. Thank you. So, Lori?
Yep. So I'm Lori Cartman. The name of my business is called the Copy Lab. So I am a recovering attorney who has a passion for writing. And so I've spun my passion for writing and my 30 years of honing, writing to persuade in terms of my legal skills. And I created the Copy Lab, and I create content for businesses. So I create copy that converts. What's something that you don't know about me? I'm a skydiver. So yeah,
Shut up. I never knew that.
yeah.
We're gonna definitely have to talk about that in our next one-on-one.
Oh, it's the most incredible experience. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing, Lori. Jason, you're next.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Jason Reed, co-founder of RTB Technologies. So I grew up in New Mexico, and there's not a lot of sports teams out of New Mexico, things like that. Ended up joining the Air Force and then got stationed out in Georgia. I was there for 8 years, and that's where I really learned what real college football was all about. So go Dogs for Steve there. So there's my nobody knows anything about that, but. I ended up, I was originally only going to do 4 years in the Air Force, but I ended up really, really loving the mission overall. So I decided I wanted to become a cyber operations officer, and that's what I did. Did that at several locations across the United States, led an Air Force base through a DoD cyber readiness inspection. We did really well. Ended up serving 20 years and then started our business 6 years ago now and lead with kind of the business model on how we achieve success within the Air Force. And right now I'm really concerned about overall cyber liability as it relates to businesses, because people just really don't know what's coming for them in terms of all the cyber insurance claims that are being denied and class action lawsuits post breach for
Got it.
recovered
Thank you,
return.
Jason. Got it. Thank you. And by the way, why am I only doing 30 seconds? Because if you can say it in 5 minutes, you can say it in 30 seconds. The detailed introductions happen in the one-on-ones. So this is fundamentally a little bit of a shift. This is not a networking group. It's a relationship cultivation group, as Dana had kind of talked about the importance of relationships. So we do all the deep dive on the one-to-one. So who is next? Carolyn, you're a guest today. So
I'm a guest, and Seth is my new friend, Seth Romanik, who invited me to Chazin. So I live in Manhattan at this point, Upper West Side, and what I do and have been for the last 5 years is I am a move consultant. So basically, the people that we most typically work with are families in transition. It could be somebody is going to assisted living or a retirement center, needs to downsize. We deal with estates, just all the different logistics of a move, whether it's getting things appraised to sell, things to donated, bringing all the move managers, inventorying everything. So that's what I do, business development, and I'm the one that meets the clients and does the assessments. Thank you.
thank you, Carolyn. Welcome to our lovely group. So Mitch, if you want to give a little deeper dive in your elevator pitch, since I got you back. Don't worry about not presenting today. But if you just want to give the full kind of, since you're a returning guest, since you're a returning member, something we don't know about you. And by the way, I'm asking everybody, who are you inviting to next month's meeting? There's going to be a bit of accountability in today's meeting. So I just want to know who everybody who's a member is inviting next month.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm Mitch Douglas. I am a fractional HR leader, and I specialize in financial services and in healthcare. And what I try to do is take HR and turn it from an expense into a strategic advantage. Too many people look at HR as being just an administrative function. But my role is to try to elevate what we can do and how we can impact the bottom line, whether it's through recruiting, whether it's through talent acquisition, talent planning, succession planning, and very importantly, development and engagement. So, been at this for about a year. Waterloo Human Capital is my organization, and I am proud to be a part of this group. And thank you, Ethan, for having my back. I apologize. I was supposed to do.
No, don't go there. It's all good.
Okay.
There's
Thank
no
you, sir.
issues. We're all good. Eric, good to see you again, my friend.
I'm Eric Harrison with DBG Advisors. We are based in Dallas, Texas. Ethan and I are the resident Dallas Cowboy fans on the call. But what we do is a sell-side mergers and acquisitions company for small to mid-sized businesses. We help them determine their current value, build the value in their business, and then get full value when and if they're ready for an exit. And also, Jason, I'm a huge college football fan, Boomer Sooner. I'm almost over. It's been 7 years. I'm almost over the game we gave you in the Rose Bowl in 2018.
No trash talking of a football nature, whether it's pro or college ranks. We don't go there. There's no antagonizing one another. We're just building relationships, you schmuck. Okay, thank you, Eric. Next up, Seth, then Philip, then Bill.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Seth Romanek. I'm the real estate attorney that you always needed, but didn't realize it until just now. And something you probably don't know about me is if you live on Long Island and you got a newspaper article a bunch of years ago about a mysterious guy who got stuck in the bay and got airlifted by helicopter, but the person refused to be named, that's me.
Oh, God.
You can Google it if you want.
Thank you, Seth, for sharing your brush with royalty. It's a pleasure to have you in this group. He who shall remain nameless, Voldemort. Thank you. Philip.
That one is a tough act to follow. Philip Lerner from PR Consulting. We are a bookkeeping firm in Baltimore. Team of 7 people handling about 100 clients. Bookkeeping is not your accounting work. It's the weekly receivables, the payables, the payroll, the bank reconciliations, and financial statements. Typical $1 million to $2 million business revenue size, and we give them a flat fee. Something that you may not know about me is that I speak, read, and write fluently 6 languages, but the number one language is the numbers, and we love those numbers. So there you go.
Gotta love the numbers, my friend. Bill.
Hi, everyone. Bill Evans, Liberty Fox Technologies. We're a AI-enabled software consultancy just outside Philadelphia. So we are leveraging new tech like AI to be much more efficient with our delivery and our solutions. We build custom business workflows in the middle market for customers in healthcare, warehousing, logistics, and a handful of other industries. And really just focus on streamlining their operations and tying their applications together. So Bill Evans, Liberty Fox.
Thanks for joining us again today, Bill, and good to see everybody, guests and members. Just for your own knowledge, there are specific spots that we're looking to recruit for individuals to join us as members starting in July. So we're looking for bankers, commercial real estate folks, people who do business valuations, web designer, web developers, and bankers, plus anybody else you know on your short list who could benefit from this peer advisory group. So
would bankers include mortgage bankers or no?
We don't have a mortgage banker. So if you know somebody who's in your inner sanctum, the point of this group is not only to cultivate relationships amongst the people who are already members, but also to bring in other individuals who are either valuable clients of yours, potential business referral partners. Use this group not only to cultivate business through the relationship of the membership, but also use this group as an opportunity to fortify relationships that you're in the process of developing. Steve is going to take over now. I'm going to kick things over to Steve, who is our guest for the June meeting. Steve is going to share his thoughts on how do we each excel in cultivating relationships in our sales process. He has a formal methodology he's going to share. And then Steve, right after you're done, after folks have had a chance to ask Q&A, we're going to go right into breakout groups, and people are going to apply the central ideological, thematics of your methodology. So let me know when you're ready, Steve.
I'm ready to roll.
Let me know when you're ready, Steve.
You want me to do the intro thing, the 30-second intro as well, or just dive right in?
Well, you could dive right in if you'd like. But I wanted to share with everybody that I know Steve because I've been stalking him for over a year. I've been reading his work on social media. I've seen other people talk about the kinds of programs that Steve has offered. His mindset is that sales is not a dirty word, that sales is actually a relationship activity. And so in that regard, now more than ever, in this post-COVID Trump 2.0 world, We need to get back to the kind of things that Steve has been advocating for. I'm gonna let you go through your own introduction, but I wanted folks to know that's how I started stalking you.
That's awesome. Thank you, Ethan. I appreciate that. And I love that you stalk me. I think it's awesome. So, I mean, I don't, you and my mom. That's it.
In that order?
I don't know. Probably not. No.
Here we go. Let's
So-
kick things off the right way. Once we talk about people's mothers, I'm in a bad place. Continue. Continue,
So-
my friend.
Yeah, so it's great to be with you guys. Just a quick little snippet about what my company does so that you have some context for the conversation. So I founded a company called Alteza about a little over 4 years ago. And essentially what we're doing is we're helping small businesses unlock hidden sales potential by providing them with highly skilled, very experienced sales professionals without breaking the bank. Most business owners see sales as this all or nothing proposition where it's like, I got to go pay 6 figures to get a really good salesperson, or I'm going to take a risk on a 100% commission person that probably isn't all that experienced. They're very surprised to learn that they can actually get a very experienced, very talented salesperson for just a few hours a week and actually move the needle on sales growth. So that's what we do. And I've been in sales my whole career. It's all I've ever done. And so I've led salespeople. I've been a salesperson. And, you know, there's a ton of books out there about sales. And, you know, I'm sure you guys have read many of them. And what we're going to talk about today is not about something that you're going to read in a book necessarily. We're going to talk about mindset. And what I'm going to share with you is what I've learned over those 30 plus years of leading salespeople is what are the mindsets that lead to successful salespeople, or probably said better, what are the mindsets that successful salespeople have? And this is applicable in this context because my guess is that all of you, us here today, are selling our own business services. We probably don't have salespeople yet. Maybe some of you do. So if you do, great. This is going to be helpful. But even if you don't, it's going to be helpful for you as you are in that seat of selling what you do to others. So that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to share my screen here and we'll walk through a few very quick points, and then we're going to dive into the Q&A, into the breakouts. We'll have some questions to go process there together. So
just to confirm, Steve, people should hold off on the Q&A until the end, and then we can do a Q&A session before we go into the breakouts.
Whatever you want to do, we can do that. Yeah, I think that's because I'm going to blow through the content pretty quickly, and then you guys, we can have some Q&A and then go to the breakout sessions, whatever works, whatever serves you guys best. So, all right, let me share my screen, and everybody should see this slide that says the 5 principles of a successful sales mindset.
Yes, got it.
Perfect. All right. So, again, great salespeople have a lot to offer to customers and prospects besides exciting pitches and out of this world products and services and whatnot. Like you were saying, Ethan, the best salespeople basically are building relationships, but they're very intentional about how they build relationships. And so mindset around that plays a huge role. So we're going to just talk about what are those kind of 5 principles that I've seen in successful salespeople. So when we look at there's 2 kind of overriding factors that really determine salespeople's success or their ability to be successful. Experience is a given, right? There is no substitute for experience, especially with sales. Sales is kind of like sports in some ways, is that it's all about the at-bats. And the more at-bats that we have doing sales, the better we get at it, especially if we're paying attention and learning from the losses as much as we are the wins. And in that context, sales is a lot like baseball, where you're going to strike out probably 70% of the time, and you're going to only get a hit 30% of the time. So it can be sort of deflating when you think about that, but it is what it is. So experience, there's no substitute for it. Mindset, on the other hand, can actually be learned and applied. And so there are some, that's what we're going to talk about today. And Ethan, I don't know if you shared the document that I had sent earlier, but in that document, there's a couple of helpful resources you can go and you can use that document as a kind of a leave behind for this conversation, but there's also a couple resources in there that could be helpful too. So if
I
you,
actually didn't, Steve, share it in advance, and I can definitely share it with the group as an outcome of today's meeting. I don't know if you want to
Perfect.
go over it or just like how you want to tackle that.
I think it's just something to be great to share as a leave behind so that you guys don't have to feel like you don't need to take notes because what we talk about is going to be in that document.
Okay, so let me distribute that after the meeting.
Yeah, that'll work. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's dive in. Let's talk about the first one. So the first one is empathy. And empathy is something that's mainly intrinsic to us as humans. We either kind of have it or we don't. But there's ways we can learn to be more empathetic. The key with empathy is that it's about understanding and being able to relate to a prospect's pain points, to their needs, to their desires, and put yourself in their shoes, and then be able to anticipate what solutions might be helpful for that situation. So, a lot of salespeople, I'm sure we've all worked with salespeople that don't even ask us questions. They immediately go into pitch mode. And when you encounter that, or when you do that yourself, you are immediately saying to the person that you're talking to that you don't have empathy, that you really don't want to know that much about them. And if you don't have that, it's going to be really difficult to build trust and rapport. So empathy is something that we really need to have, the ability to ask good questions and understand where somebody's coming from so that we can put ourselves in their shoes and try to, as best we can, figure out how do we solve their problem or help them reach a goal based on our own feelings about that. So empathy is absolutely one of the mindsets that's very present in highly skilled salespeople. The next one is hunger. And hunger is a lot of times when we think of hunger in the context of sales, we think about hunger for money. And I'm not saying that that's not necessarily part of it, because salespeople are motivated by money, and us as business owners, I hope we are as well. But that's not really what we're hungered for. And really great salespeople, they're hungered by winning, and what winning looks like is winning. It's a win-win proposition. So the best salespeople and the best business owners who sell, they're always looking for that win-win situation. How can I help you win in a way that potentially helps me win? But sometimes the win for me isn't necessarily about making a sale. It's just about helping somebody, again, solve a problem, figure out how to find a solution to a need, or reach a goal, reach an objective that they have. And so the win-win is we're helping that person, and when we help somebody, we win too. We feel a sense of fulfillment in that, and sometimes that leads to a sale for us, and sometimes it doesn't. But either way, we feel that sense of winning, and the best salespeople have a hunger to do that all the time. They show up every day wanting to help people win. So that's a big one. Next one is proactive. So proactive is, this is a behavior probably. It's also a mindset. And when I talk about being proactive, I'm especially talking about communication. So the best salespeople are very proactive communicators via spoken word, written word. They basically just know how to proactively speak to somebody about the problem they're trying to solve. They're very consultative in their approach, so they're not afraid to challenge perceptions or misconceptions. They're comfortable leaning into it and talking about it. So they're not afraid of it, right? They're very comfortable and very proactive about saying things. Tell me more about that, or I heard you say this. Help me understand that, right? So that's what I'm talking about when I say proactive. They're not reactive. proactive. They're not sitting back waiting for you to drive the conversation. They themselves are driving the conversation and trying to get it to a logical conclusion, even if that logical conclusion is, let's schedule another call, right? So the proactivity is an absolute characteristic of the best salespeople. And to apply this in a different way, think in terms of, how many times have you had a conversation with somebody who potentially is a customer for you, and at the end of it, you think to yourself, well, they'll call me back if they're interested, and then you never hear from them again. Well, that's an example of reactive behavior. So a proactive person in that situation is not going to wait. They're going to intentionally schedule the next thing. And even if that doesn't work in the context of the conversation, they'll reach back out and proactively try to keep the conversation going instead of sitting back waiting for the prospect to call them. So again, proactivity is a big deal. The next one is preparedness. And, being prepared it's a no-brainer, right? We kind of think about that in the context of, what we learn in school, being prepared for a test. But too many salespeople, and honestly, I see this with business owners as well, they show up for a sales conversation and the only thing they're prepared to do is pitch. So I call that pitch slapping. And you don't want to be a pitch slapper. So put a big sign up on your wall. Don't be a pitch slapper. We don't want to ever do that. We want to be prepared going into a conversation by knowing a little bit about the person we're meeting with, knowing about their company, and coming into the conversation prepared with good questions. Because what our job is, as a good salesperson, is to be an active listener. So we have to get people talking about what's going on in their business if we're going to be able to solve their problems. So if we come in prepared with good questions because we've done some research, that's going to be awesome. If we come in prepared to do a pitch, we're going to immediately turn that person off. They're going to put up their zone of resistance and it's game over. So preparedness is a key thing, and the best salespeople are always prepared. They know what they're getting ready to talk about, and they have great questions designed to get that prospect talking about themselves instead of the salesperson talking about themselves. And then the last one is grit. And that seems like a no-brainer as well, right? And if any of you have ever read the book Grit by Angela Lee Duckworth, it's a really good book. I highly recommend it if you haven't read it. If you have read it, one of the things that comes out of the book, out of the extensive studies that she has done, is that grit isn't just about perseverance. Certainly that's a huge part of grit, is the ability to just kind of keep going no matter what's happening. But what she uncovers in the study is that grit is typically connected to passion. So it's really hard for us to be perseverant or gritty about something that we don't care about. So we have to care first. And so if you really care about the work that you're doing, then grit should be a natural extension of that. If you're sort of ho-hum about it, it's going to be hard to be gritty. So gritty, while it is a characteristic in some people in the context of sales and business, it really matters when salespeople or business owners care deeply about the work they do and believe that it makes a difference in people's lives. And then that's where the grit emanates from. So those are the 5 principles. And so before we get into kind of the self-reflection questions that we'll dive into in the breakouts, what I'll do is stop sharing and we'll just open it up for questions, comments, and for however long we want to do that, Ethan.
Yeah, so, well, first of all, Steve, I just want to say thank you for taking time to present to our group today. And just to kind of share with the other people a little bit of transparency. The reason I invited Steve and I had started a conversation. The notion of the 5 sales mindsets came out of every single day I talk to people, both in this group and other people. There is a general burned out factor where people are going at it day in, day out. They don't see the result of their efforts. They don't see the efficacy, the return on their time, blood, sweat, and tears equity. And I'm sensing that we can talk in the breakouts about the 5 key attributes: empathy, hunger, being proactive, being prepared, and exhibiting grit. in terms of our passion. So before we go to breakout, now's an opportunity to ask Steve any questions you have about his methodology, because we're going to talk about how we apply these in our own selling in the breakouts. So
Yeah.
I open up the floor. I have a question, Steve. How do we keep tapping into our passion for what we do to go out and just keep being the hamster on the wheel, scheduling those one-on-ones, being prepared? How do we keep ourselves energized? What are some techniques that you find work with successful people who are self-motivated?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ethan, because like you were talking about with the conversations that you're having, that it can feel a little bit like a beat down, right? When we're not making the progress that we want to make, and sometimes it's easy to lose the passion. I don't know. I'm sure there's things that you guys have that work for you. For me, the thing that works for me is I always have people on my calendar that I know are going to be very uplifting conversations and life-giving conversations, because they're people who are like-minded, people who share some of the passion that I have as well, for whether it's what we do specifically or whether it's just helping other small business owners, right? So I have strategic partners or referral partners, or just friends that are on my calendar every week. I've got at least 1 or 2 calls with people like that. And here's what happens for me is when I have those conversations and we're just talking about life and business and whatnot, we always lean into that passion that we share, and we fire each other up about it. It just brings it back, right? It's just a reminder when you get around people who share, your values and your passions, we're going to lift each other up. Sometimes I'm doing it for them. Sometimes they're doing it for me. Sometimes we're doing it for each other. But for me, it's the people that I put in my life that help me anchor and back in that passion, Ethan. So
Got it. No, thank you so much. So what's the takeaway for every single person who just heard that? You need to, like me, come up with a short list of 5, 4, 5, 6 people who give you that kind of energy. When you speak to them, as Steve said, you're fulfilled by having the nature of that relationship. So find a short list and get those people. You need to own their proactiveness of getting on their calendar on a regular, weekly, or bi-weekly basis. So come away with a short list. We have time for one question. So I'm seeing Mitch has a question, Steve, and then we're going to go into, I think Eric, you also have a question.
Eric had a question too.
Okay, so Mitch, then Eric, then we go to our breakouts. We're going to have 2 breakout groups, and the prompt is in the chat. Go right ahead, Mitch.
Great. Thanks, Steve. Question for you is, all of us are talking to potential clients. And to your point, some of them are not quite ready at that time for whatever the reason might be. Talk to me about some of the ideas. I try to communicate with them by sending them key information. It could be about, I'm in HR. So it could be, a new law that's coming into place, or there's something about HR compliance, or something that might be a topic on employee relations. What are some of the things to keep that relationship going until they're ready to actually pull the trigger and say, come on in, I do need you?
Yeah, I think, well, you touched on it. So what you talked about there, Mitch, is called sales enablement. So when you have content that's relevant to the work that you're doing and to the situation that people are in, and you're just sending that content on a regular basis to keep people informed, that's one way to do it. And I highly recommend that you do that. The other thing, just to take it to the next level, again, if we're good listeners and we hear something very specific in a conversation, and then we come across a piece of content that maybe it's not our content, it's somebody else's content, or it's a post on LinkedIn, and you go, oh man, that reminds me of Jason. I'm going to send this to Jason. And so I'm going to send that to Jason and say, Jason, I just read this post on LinkedIn and I thought of you. I hope it's helpful. And then you can reference the thing that you thought made it relevant. What that's going to say to Jason is, oh man, he heard me. He listened to me. He understands what I'm dealing with. So he still might not be ready to do business, but when he is, he's going to think about you first.
Okay,
I love that.
so yeah, great advice. this works, this what Steve just said, equally well for people who are potential clients and also potential referral partners. I cannot
Yes.
tell you the number of times I've sent an email out to this group saying, hey, just want to let you know, and crickets, no reply. That's not functionally carrying your end of a mutually beneficial, as you said, win-win hunger kind of relationship. So we need to get practice what we preach. If we want people to get back to us, we need to start responding to each other a hell of a lot better. And that's kind of why I wanted Steve on today's group meeting. So, Eric, your question, keep it quick, direct
Yeah.
it to Steve, and then we're going to
Very
go to our
quick and-
breakout.
Very quick and kind of a follow-up to Mitch. People do business with that they know, like, and trust.
Uh-huh.
What advice would you have to build to build that as quickly as possible with prospects?
Yeah, well, trust is, no, it's funny. Trust is the last word in the know, like, and trust continuum, but it's the first priority. Because if we don't have trust, then we don't get the others, right? If they don't trust us, then they don't care to know us or like us. So we have to build trust. And I will tell you, the best way that you build trust is going back to what I was saying about being an active listener. Come into the conversation prepared to ask really insightful questions, and then listen more than you talk. And when you do that and you get people talking about themselves, that naturally builds trust. It's just our human nature. When we're sitting across from someone who's curious and interested in us, then we feel a sense of comfort, safety, and trust with them. When they just want to talk, it's like, I'm done. I got somewhere I got to go. So yeah, listen a lot.
So we're going to go into the breakouts. We're going to spend 8 minutes talking about, for each of us, what of these 5 strategies we feel most comfortable with. What do we use most often? What do we not feel comfortable? Why not? And just ask each other for strategies that works for each of us. Steve, can you feel comfortable kind of facilitating one of the groups?
Yeah, I can go into one of the
Or
groups.
just bounce back and forth. So I'm
Whatever
going to
you
break
want
us
me to
up.
do.
I'm going to break us up into 2 groups right now. We'll go for 8 minutes. And so again, empathy, putting yourself in somebody else's situation. What do you feel they're feeling? Hunger. How can we reconcile win-win? How do we create win-win relationships is number 2. 3 is proactive. Can you speak as an effective communicator in a consultative voice? That's 3, proactive. 4, being prepared. Don't be a pitch slapper. And 5, how can we exhibit grit, a tenacity to stick to it by leveraging our passion, why we do what we do? Okay. So
And
here we
I'll add one more thing, Ethan, to that. If you guys have a story to tell about where one of those principles actually won, you won an opportunity or a new account because of that, one of those, share that too. That's super helpful to hear as well.
love it. Thank you. So we're going to go into breakouts right now. Create options 8. Nope. 10 minutes. Okay, here we go. We're going into 2 groups, randomly assigned.
And we're back.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Any thoughts, observations, anything that was discussed that you thought was helpful?
Well, I thought the whole conversation was quite good. Sometimes you wish there was more than 8 or 10 minutes because you barely get started. But great topics, I think.
Where would we continue the conversation then, Dana, if you were so inclined?
Well, I think there was a little more depth for a couple of folks that just we ran out of time. You know,
Yeah, time management is always one. So where would you go to learn more about each other and deepen the relationship?
Well, I assume that I now have access to contact information for the folks in this room, and I would love to get to know each of them better. And to your point, we can all figure out how or if we can help each other in different ways moving forward. I appreciate everybody.
Some would almost dare to call that a win-win. So not to be facetious, but I think you all know that that's my modus operandi. You all have each other's names. You all should be connected via LinkedIn. You all have each other's emails because I've sent a gazillion emails about this group. So there's nothing to prevent each other from getting out there and having those valuable one-on-ones. So anybody have any observations about your group breakout discussion or questions or things that were said that you thought, wow,
You know
that's
what?
Carolyn.
Yes, thank you. I'm like the shyest guest ever, right? It's interesting.
Clearly.
Like it's like when you were talking to Bill, I always feel that when somebody is vulnerable and honest, that's the thing that rings the most, you know? That's like really like that brings out your empathy.
Yes.
What you
But
asked
so
and what he shared, that's perfect. Every human wants to know that the other person is struggling because it's like a GC who says like, I don't know why I'm not working, who works like crazy. Are some people like just charging nothing for their people? It's just very demoralizing. You jump into their life immediately, and that's the connection.
And so what Carolyn's saying, and thank you so much, Carolyn, for those who weren't in our breakout group with Bill, Bill was kind enough to share that he's repositioning his firm to kind of factor in to the equation of his business model, that there's competition coming from other folks who provide AI-driven services. So he's at the point where he's redesigning his business model. So Bill, to the extent that anybody can help, or just kind of brainstorm with you, that would be valuable, I think, from a one-on-one standpoint. Yeah, we don't have the answers, each of us, believe it or not. Nobody has all the answers, or we would be running our business at 100% capacity, and none of us, to be honest, are. So there's that. And Steve, any thoughts or observations in terms of kind of wrapping up your time with the group? Any thoughts, any
Well, yeah, the one thing I want to talk about at the very end, Seth was sharing the story, and then we ran out of time. But what he was talking about was how he just went into a kind of problem-solving mode to help to solve a problem and create a win for somebody. And what it reminded me of is sometimes the best thing that we can do is kind of take off the sales hat altogether and just be a counselor for somebody, So like you were saying, Carolyn, I mean, we're being vulnerable. Sometimes to be vulnerable means, you know what? I'm just gonna try to help in any way I can. I'm gonna just try to help this person and help them talk through and process and solve a problem, even if it doesn't lead to business for me. I have found that to be incredibly helpful. Like Ethan, you and I've talked about this before. Sometimes when we're just talking about, hey, let me just do something for somebody to help them solve a problem, it'll lead to something else. Sometimes a referral, sometimes an opportunity to do business with them later. So I think that was a key takeaway from our discussion, is sometimes, let's just take the sales hat off altogether and see what we can do to help somebody.
Yeah. So just folks, I really honor and respect, Steve, your mindset, and also appreciate you coming into the group today. But I'll let you all know how what Steve just said is really meaningful to me. So there's a gentleman who I've known for 2 years. His name is Mike Paterano. You may notice the name. I literally set up a series of weekly fireside chats, myself and him, through LinkedIn events starting third week July. He's struggling with his business. He has a very hard time articulating his kind of business model. So I decided that if we do a joint webinar, at least I can get the folks in the room and help frame some of the conversation for him to maybe prospect a little bit. Those are the things that's low-hanging fruit that we can do for each other. We shouldn't, I think, be so focused on the transaction of selling that we're literally not focusing on our relationship. So that's that. Steve, I want to thank you again on behalf of the group for coming. I do want to wrap up today. We're going past the hour. Does anybody have anything you'd like to share that's coming up? Webinars you're doing, road shows, conferences, speaking engagements? Maybe you wrote a book. Anything anybody like to share? Okay, I'm going to share then. I'm going to share my screen. So can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So not sure if you all know, back in 2018, I published my second book called The Compassionate Organization. I had spent 10 years researching all over the world what were the one or two most successful companies in each industry, over 200 countries, 7,000 companies. And I said, what, if anything, is there in organizations that always outperform their competitors? And regardless of all other characteristics, after a decade, I finally published the book because the one thing that every amazing organization has is culture. So I was doing a lot of speaking engagements. We moved back to New York City from New Jersey in 2019. My speaker series has gone to nothing. So if you all are in a position to help me, I am looking to restart my speaking engagements with keynote talks to groups of people. If you know anybody, any groups you belong to, I talk about topics pertaining to people first strategies and amazing workplace culture. So if you all know of any groups or associations, please feel free to introduce me as an expert. That's my request. Anybody else have any special requests right now? Anything anybody working on? Does anybody know a maybe business attorney who might be a good introduction for Seth? Or a real estate firm? Or title insurance or mortgage bankers? Seth, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I just texted you why I can't do that.
Well, then maybe I should have paid attention to that. And Jason, Dana, Mitch, Bill, Carolyn, anything you'd like to share before we kind of dance out of here?
Can I just ask, so why would you want to meet a business attorney, Seth? Explain that. Just because attorneys want to meet other attorneys, right?
Yeah, I'm looking to speak to a business attorney who might be
right.
helpful with corporate structures and forming partnership agreements and that kind of thing.
Right.
Now, does the state matter where the attorney is?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's got to be New York State.
That's what I
New
was
York.
thinking, yeah.
Sorry, I should have been more specific with that.
Or I should have. My bad. Anybody have anything coming up where you would want to leverage the power of this group for your own professional pursuits? As Steve was saying, the epitome of a win-win, where we can be proactive and help each other.
Well, I would just say I look forward to getting to know everybody here a bit more so that I understand how or if I might be able to help in the future. And
Well said.
I want to give a shout out to you, Ethan, because one of the things that came up is this issue of being able to be vulnerable and be real. And I think a lot of times in a business situation, people are fearful about that. And I think it really removes the humanity of doing business with one another. And I just want to say you've been very kind, you've been very thoughtful, very helpful. I like that you put this group together. And I'm glad to meet you, glad to know Steve, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know the rest of the folks that are here today. Thank you for this opportunity.
My pleasure. It was predicated on 20 years of being treated like shit in corporate America. And I said, fuck it. And I went out on my own in 2009 and I've never looked back. I have gone through all the roller coaster ups and downs. I've been at this for 17 years, some good years, a lot of really bad years. I don't do this for the money. I do this because there are people who are eating shit every day and I want to change your diet. I want to literally empower people like us to go into organizations and have them see the awesomeness of what we do, what makes us unique and valuable, memorable, and literally be successful. So none of us have to go work for the man or the woman.
I would
I saw your grit coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would just like to say, like, everybody goes through their business shit, Dana, if, like, just my 2 cents. And being vulnerable is like this is a really good space for that. And in like a cooperative group of people who are collaborative and trying to help each other, like, solve problems. But when you when you project to anybody that you're targeting to get business from, no vulnerability whatsoever. You're the man, everything's great, and like everybody's coming to you. That's what you want to project. Anything short of that and nobody wants you.
And on that note, have the one-on-ones. There's nothing more valuable than nurturing relationships that already exist. It's so much infinitely more valuable from each of our perspectives to cultivate the relationships that we have because we're so busy doing molecule wars, going from networking group to group to group, bouncing off each other, complete strangers, when everybody you need is already in your Rolodex. It's what Steve was saying. We want to deepen the relationships of win, win, win. On that note, feel free to reach out to me offline. Happy to have one-on-ones with everybody. If you know of somebody who could benefit from this group, it's not a networking group, it's a peer advisory group. Let me know. I'll reach out to them. I'll invite them to the next meeting, which is Friday, July 18th. And then in August, we go back to a Thursday schedule. Any last questions, comments? I am recording the session, so if you need to listen to it, I will make it available on my YouTube channel.
I want to say, Steve, thank you. That was really a wonderful presentation. I feel what you're saying, like the trust, the empathy, all of that.
Awesome. Thank you, Carolyn. I appreciate that.
I
Thank you,
love
Steve.
you.
You know, you can read a million books and they're very technical, but you brought it down to the simplistic.
Yeah.
I love you, man. I love you.
He's
I
thinking
do not
about
have
stalking.
sexual relations. Anyway, everybody have a lovely weekend. Just, it's humid out there. Be careful.
All right, take care, everybody.
Bye. Bye, Seth.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
You.
Bye, everyone.